Welcome to We Love Quizzes. Here we have 50 questions. There are 4 options. Can you find the odd one out and also why it is the odd one out? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Good luck. Are you ready? Let's go. Which is the odd one out? Apple is the odd one out because the others are sports brands, and Apple is a tech company. Which is the odd one out? Brazil is the odd one out because the other 3 are European countries. Which is the odd one out? Ketchup is the odd one out because the other 3 are dairy products. Which is the odd one out? Eagle is the odd one out because the other 3 are sea animals. Which is the odd one out? Spotify is the odd one out because the others are video streaming services. Which is the odd one out? Mazda is the odd one out as it is a Japanese car company. The others are German car manufacturers. Which is the odd one out? Snake is the odd one out because it's the only legless animal. Which is the odd one out? Batman is the odd one out because the other 3 are from Marvel. Batman is DC. Which is the odd one out? Is the odd one out because the other 3 are prime numbers. Which is the odd one out? Football is the odd one out because the other 3 are played with a racket. Which is the odd one out? Starry Night is the odd one out because the other 3 are works by Leonardo da Vinci. Starry Night was painted by Vincent van Gogh. Which is the odd one out? Jimmy White is the odd one out because the other 3 are world snooker champions. Jimmy lost all 6 of his finals and never won the championship. Which is the odd one out? Table is the odd one out because the other 3 are types of seats. Which is the odd one out? Joseph Chamberlain is the odd one out because the other 3 all served as prime minister. Which is the odd one out? Green is the odd one out because the other 3 are primary colors. Which is the odd one out? Istanbul is the odd one out because the other 3 are capital cities. Which is the odd one out? Pi is the odd one out because the other three are real element symbols. Which is the odd one out? Bill Gates is the odd one out because the other three have won the Nobel Peace Prize. Which is the odd one out? Pepsi is the odd one out because the other three are Coca-Cola brands. Which is the odd one out? White is the odd one out because the other three are printing ink colors. Which is the odd one out? Happy is the odd one out because the other three are nouns. Which is the odd one out? Fog is the odd one out because the other three are cloud types. Which is the odd one out? Socrates is the odd one out because the other three are Greek gods. Socrates was a Greek philosopher. Which is the odd one out? Ace is the odd one out as it is not a picture card. Which is the odd one out? Elizabeth I is the odd one out because the other three were wives of Henry VIII. Which is the odd one out? Chardonnay is the odd one out because it's a white wine, while Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Pinot Noir are all red wines. Which is the odd one out? Franklin D. Roosevelt is the odd one out because Mount Rushmore features Theodore Roosevelt, not Franklin D. Roosevelt. Which is the odd one out? The odd one out is diamond because it isn't a metal. Which is the odd one out? Python is the odd one out because it is a constrictor, while the other three are venomous snakes. Which is the odd one out? Humerus is the odd one out as it is a bone in the arm, while the other three are all bones in the leg. Which is the odd one out? Clarinet is the odd one out because it is a woodwind instrument, while trumpet, trombone, and tuba are all brass instruments. Which is the odd one out? The Colosseum is not one of the original wonders of the world. Which is the odd one out? Sonic the Hedgehog is the odd one out because he isn't a bear, while Winnie the Pooh, Paddington, and Yogi Bear are all bear characters. Which is the odd one out? Orion is a constellation, the other three are stars. Which is the odd one out? Dr. Faustus was not written by William Shakespeare. Which is the odd one out? Lake Tahoe is the odd one out because it is not one of the Great Lakes. Which is the odd one out? Spice Girls is a girl group, while the others are boy bands. Which is the odd one out? The odd one out is magma, because crust, mantle, and core are Earth's main layers. Which is the odd one out? Photosynthesis is the odd one out because it is not part of the water cycle. Which is the odd one out? Victoria is the odd one out because it is a lake, while Red, Black, and Caspian are all seas. Which is the odd one out? K is the odd one out because X, V, and M are Roman numerals. K is not. Which is the odd one out? Titan is the odd one out because it is a moon of Saturn, while Triton, Nereid, and Proteus are moons of Neptune. Which is the odd one out? Marble is the odd one out because it is not a currency. Which is the odd one out? Grape is the odd one out because it is a berry, while almond, cashew, and peanut are types of nuts. Which is the odd one out? Slam dunk is the odd one out because it is a basketball move, while the others are chess moves. Which is the odd one out? Iron is the odd one out, all the others are wedding anniversaries. Which is the odd one out? Versailles is the odd one out because it is not a battle, while Waterloo, Hastings, and Agincourt are all famous battles. Which is the odd one out? Parallel because it is not a type of angle. Which is the odd one out? Danube, because it is a river, not a desert. Which is the odd one out? Falcon, because it can fly while the others cannot. How did you do? Put your score in the comments and see how others did. Thanks for watching. Why not try another quiz?